Hello, we will cover the employee module. An employee, also called resource in Abak, is a user who can enter time and expenses. A license can simultaneously manage a number of active employees depending on the license purchased. When an employee leaves, its status can be set to inactive, which takes away the right to access the application and leaves room for a new active employee. There are three types of resource in Abak: an employee, a subcontractor, and a dummy resource. Only employees and subcontractors can enter time and expenses and are therefore considered for the active license in Abak. Employees type dummy are used for reporting purposes, which allows you to sort information according to various metrics. An employee who wishes to connect to Abak must know its user ID and password. A feature can be activated through System Configuration under Option, allows the employee who has forgotten its password to reset it via a link sent to the email address. The employee's location is optional. However, the email address is required to receive alerts when using the workflow module or through approvals. Language determines the display language of the interface and can be changed by the employee. An employee must be assigned to an executive entity, which is typically an office depending on the structure of the organization. It can also be linked to a department if available in this executive entity. Department falls under one single executive entity, which means that if you have a sales department in a city X and Y, you need to create the sales department city X attached to the executive entity X and a second sales department city Y under executive entity Y. The executive entity and departments can be created through reference tables in the organizational structure. A function is a position that is assigned to the employee and can be created using the reference tables under employee. A selling rate may be assigned to all employees having the same function. It is also possible to obtain reports for grouping and totals based on the executive entities, the departments, and the functions. The bank calendar are related to the management of time banks, such as holidays and overtime, and are defined in the reference tables under the employee section. The pay calendar is related to the transfer of data to a payroll system and is also defined in the reference tables under employee. Bank calendar determines the frequency of calculations and can therefore be the same in both cases. For example, if the pay is paid every 2 weeks and time banks are calculated over a period of 2 weeks. The task field defines an activity that appears by default when you create a time entry. These default settings can be changed when creating a timesheet. The Preferences section determines how the data is displayed when browsing in the application. Each employee can have a custom display according to their tastes. The field Preference drop-down list determines the selection of a drop-down list if the code or description of the fields will be displayed first. Default expense type bottom determine the expenses that will be available when you enter the expense directly from a timesheet. The hourly section determines the number of hours per week, especially useful in a report called Time Distribution by Active Employee, as well as the number of hours per day used in the calculation of overtime banks. The report section allows the use of custom reports for timesheet and expense to replace those already included in the module timesheet and expense. These custom reports can be developed with software like Crystal Report and included in Abak. This is useful when an employee works in outsourcing and must provide a specific timesheet format to his client. In the Rates tab, you can enter a selling rate and cost rate. These rates may be either hourly or daily for your employee, depending on the project setting. To know the hierarchy of rates, how to establish them in Abak, see the documentation document called How to Set Rates, available in the Help menu, Training Documentation. And in the Invoicing tab, the Profit and Loss field allows you to enter the default account that applies to the portion of the profit and loss, also called radiation, assigned to that employee. Profit and loss is created when we bill an amount that differs from the work in progress. In order to use that field, you must not set it to global under corporate entity. The vendor field is used when you want to transfer the expense accounts of your employees in some accounting system compatible. As part of the integration with the software, each employee must be created as a supplier in Abak, which uses the same name or number as the corresponding vendor in the accounting software. This field is also used for a subcontractor. In such a case, this allows the system to generate from timesheet and expenses accounts entered by the employee a vendor invoice that can be compared to the one it gives you to get paid. Once approved, you can transfer the invoice to your accounting software, eliminating double entry and any related risk. The project field is only available to subcontractor. Since the hours of subcontractor are already charged to actual projects, this vendor invoice that is created automatically for validation should not be charged twice on the same project. That is why here we select a common project to all employees subcontractor. The GL section of the Invoicing tab refers to the integration between Abak and a compatible accounting system. Consequently, a segment of the GL account could be specific to one or more employees. For more information, see the document How to Integrate with Your Accounting Structure. The Security tab gives navigational rights to the resource. By default, there are 3 levels of security: System Admin with all the rights, Administrator with all the rights except the configuration modules, and finally the user group who has access timesheet, expense accounts, calendar, and access to their profile or change password and language. You can create as many user groups as desired through the security module. The field Access Project determines the extent of the projects the resource may enter time. Access to all projects provides access to 100% of existing open projects, regardless of whether they are restricted or not. We do not recommend this option because it is more permissive. The second option gives access to all the projects that you do not restrict employees, as well as small projects on which they are assigned through the Budget Employee section window. A project is limited when the box Resourced in the General tab of the project is checked. The third option provides access only to projects where the employee is assigned. This is perfect for subcontractors which should not access certain unrestricted projects such as administration and training. Regardless of the chosen security level at the navigation, it is possible to restrict the resource to only certain corporate entities or companies. Only customers, projects, vendors, employee, and reports of these entities will be accessible. The options in the right section affect different features which are not all covered here. The most used are the following. Responsible for billing should have access to all draft invoices and break existing lock on invoice project checked. Employees with access to projects, such as project manager, should have access to all 4 project filters. The Approval Access tab determines, in the use of modules, timesheet, and expense accounts, who has access to whom and who approves whom. Approval of a day has the effect of preventing the addition, modification or deletion of transaction for that day. The employee may itself approve the timesheet by printing after checking the final version field or by using the module Approval by Employee in the Home menu. Then, the intermediate approver and its substitutes may approve and disapprove in turn. In conclusion, the final approver and its substitutes can approve or disapprove. The approval level prevents the lower levels of disapproval. The disapproval of a level allows lower levels to approve again. Resources registered in the input field can access, add, edit, and delete timesheet and expenses of the employee in question. Individuals registered in the consultation section can access timesheet and expenses of the employee in question, but only in consultation. Finally, registrants in the acceptance section of expense accounts may approve expenses for payment transfer and payroll system. By checking full access to all employees' transactions, this resource will be able to access timesheet and expenses of all employees of the company, with permissions to add, edit, and delete transactions. The name of a resource should never appear in more than one place, since approver gets input and write consultation. Similarly, the input rights include consultation. However, this does not apply to the acceptance of expense accounts. The Transfer Payroll tab is related to a feature in Abak that can transfer to the payroll system the hours worked by employees. The User-Defined Field tab allows you to add up to 99 fields that are not already present in the employee record. To use this feature, you must go under User-Defined Field under Administration. For example, if you wish to add the birth date of an employee, you can create a date field that will be available for all other resource records. The icons at the top allows you to add, duplicate, and delete the record of an employee. You can also access the calendar of the employee and see the transactions and the document annexed to the profile of the employee. This completes the employee module. Thank you for your attention.